Hi there, so today we're going to do a junction. We're going to approach and turn left. So I want to go through how to go through that approach. So I've got a diagram here which you can have a look at as well while I'm explaining. But we're just basically going to go through the use of the Msp Sl routine, which is mirror, signal, position, speed and looking. So on the approach to a junction, so looking ahead, you want to be assessing, you want to be thinking about the junction you're going to go to, depending if you know where you're going or you're being asked to turn, do a left turning. So plan well ahead, look down the road into the distance and see where your junctions are going to be. One of the first things you want to do, and you want to do this very, very early, is start going through the mirror signal maneuver routine. So mirror checks. So it's important to do the early assessment on the mirrors, going into the interior mirror, so you're looking directly behind the car, and also you want to be covering that left side door mirror, and you're checking for what's around the back of the car. It could be a motorbike, could be a cyclist, depending on your speed. So we are looking the assessment of what's behind us, and that's going to give us our information about where we're going to go from next on the routine. So mirror checks very early, and now we can decide on our signalling and our speed control of the approach to the junction. So mirrors early, signalling good time. We're now going to get the indicator usually around about 7 to 8 seconds away from the junction usually. Now again, that could differ if you have to indicate early because you've got traffic close behind you. You might have a junction or a driveway before the one that you want to turn. So again, you may have to alter that signal. But again, it's about getting into the routine of mirror, signal, manoeuvre. Right, once we've got our indicator on, we're going to also be thinking about positioning. Now, position on approach, we should be travelling about a metre away from the curb, and we want to stay that metre distance from the curb all the way up to the junction. Obviously, if we've got issues with parked cars or any other issues, we may have to move out a little bit wider from the corner. But what we don't want to do is come from the metre distance, and then just before we get to the turning, we don't want to be getting closer and closer before the turn point, because that's going to compromise in our steering. So keep on about a metre of distance from the curb as much as we can possibly do so. Now we're going into the speed control. Now this is an area where you've got to really think about when you're going to start braking. Now what I tend to find during driving lessons is that people brake too late and then you end up coming into corners too fast. So what we're going to really be aiming at doing is for that turning there, we want to be travelling around about 10 to 15 mile an hour for that corner, probably closer to 10. And that's going to give us a nice slow control to be able to get around the corner. So what we've got to now think about is our braking. So if we're travelling at 30 mile an hour, we've got to brake that speed down. So we're going to start braking early, softly. So we're bringing that speed down to 25, down to 20, down to 15, and then finally getting closer to 10 just before we get to that turn point. What we don't want to do is brake too early, too hard early, and end up having to crawl up to the corner. We want to be gradually bringing that speed down. On the other hand, we don't want to leave the braking too late and having to do all the braking at that last stage of it. So again, we're going for that braking early, softly, gradually stepping that speed down. As we're bringing the speed down, we've also got to remember our gears. So usually on a turning on a corner like that, we're going to be probably using second gear. So obviously as we're getting that speed limit down, and we're actually going to wait for the speed to reduce. We're going to get to maybe about 20, 15 mile an hour before we start changing gear. So as we're starting to brake, bring that speed down, we're reaching 20 mile an hour, the clutch can go down. We can then, as the speed's just dropping under 20, we're going to now move the gear lever gently and slowly into gear 2. We're then going to get off the clutch, lift the clutch slowly. We should be able to count that clutch out, 1, 2, 3, 4, off clutch. And by that point, we should still have a little bit of time to roll up to it in a straight line before we actually start turning. Once you've got your clutch fully out, assessment of that speed, if you're getting close to that level of 10, 12 mile an hour that you want it to do, you're easing off the brake. And then we're just letting the engine push the car around the corner. The last stage of it, we're thinking about our observations. Now, observations are happening all the time, but just before we get to that corner, what we do need to do is to look into that side road. Obviously, at the early stage, you're not going to be able to see early. The closer you get in, the further you can see into that junction. So what we are looking at now is any dangers on that corner. So again, there could be pedestrians crossing the road. There may be parked vehicles after the corner. There might be oncoming traffic to deal with. So all the way through that corner, you want to be ready to stop. You might have to change, you might have to alter your speed, you might have to completely stop the car depending on the situation after the corner. So another good reason why we want to have that speed limit slow enough to be able to cope with the issues in that side junction. Okay, so we're going to now have a drive up to this junction. We're going to now look at the left turning, and I'm going to talk you all the way through that again as we're making that turning. Okay, so we're going to now go up to the left turning, and I'm going to explain as I'm driving all the pointers that we're going to need to use. Okay, so getting ready to move on. So I'm going to get my speed up to 25-30 mile an hour, take it up to 4th gear. I'm now going to take the next left turn in, so I'm going to start checking the interior mirror and the door mirror. I'm now going to start indicating left. It's nice and clear behind me. I'm going to start dropping my speed. I'm about a metre from the corner, down to 2nd gear, down to about 15-12 mile an hour. I'm off my clutch already, and I'm going to start turning with that left turning. I'm going to follow the curb in nicely. I can see that I'm close, reasonably close to the curb. I'm going to just run up to the next junction on the left. I'm going to take my speed up again, gear 3, up to gear 4. Again, I'm turning next left, so I'm going to check my mirrors very early. So again, I can see there's nothing behind me, nothing on that left corner. I'm going to start indicating left again. I'm going to start braking, clutch down to 15 mile an hour, 2nd gear, off the clutch slowly, ready for my steering. I'm assessing into that junction, so I've got the parked van to deal with, so I'm going to keep it nice and slow in case there's oncoming traffic. Again, I'm following that curb reasonably close. I could always see that curb in view on that left corner, or just coming behind the pillar on that side. Okay, so I'm just going to come up to this junction extremely slowly because I just want to show you the positioning for the left turning. So what I'm looking at the moment is watching that curb come across the windscreen, and I'm going to keep the curb in view. So I'm now going to start turning. It's in that last quarter of the window. I can follow the curb through, and I'm about a metre from the curb. I don't want to let the car swing wide, so if you let the curb disappear completely, you know that you're going to be running wide.